Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk about the relationship between a boater and a non-boater. So a lot of tournaments these days, you get paired. There's a boater who brings their boat and they get paired with an amateur or a co-angler in the back of the boat. And I get asked a lot of times by beginning fishermen who have never fished a boater, non-boater tournament, what the expectations are. And it's a great question. You know, I think a lot of people who have never fished tournaments before, their first entry into the tournament world is as a non-boater. And it's a little bit of an intimidating thing to go and get paired up with somebody you've never met before and fish out of their boat for a day. I've done them before. When I was in high school, I did a bunch, and it was always a little bit of a nerve-wracking, stressful situation because, you know, I was young. I didn't know what to expect. And, you know, there's the concern that you might get paired with somebody that you don't necessarily gel with in the boat. And, you know, so I've got a couple of keys a couple pointers that I like to give out to people who asked me this question. And, you know, there's kind of two, I kind of separate this into two categories. There's the fishing aspect of it, and then there's just the general like boater etiquette. So I'm going to start with boater etiquette. Number one, the first and foremost thing, in my opinion, is to make sure that you treat their boat and their equipment as if it were your own. You know, don't step on the seats. Don't, you know, just throw everything all over the place. If you bring dye and you're dipping baits, don't get dye all over the carpet. It's really just a common sense thing. You want to treat their boat well and leave it in the same condition that it was in before you got there. You know, I've seen firsthand, I've had seats get torn because guys were stepping on the seats when they were moving up onto the back deck. I've got a step between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. Use the step. Don't step on the seats. So that's, you know, that's the first thing. Treat the equipment as if it's your own and make sure you don't do anything that could jeopardize that equipment. You know, there's nothing you want to do. There's nothing worse than starting off the day by destroying something in somebody else's boat. So that's one thing. The other is, I personally like to have a conversation right off the bat in the boat. I like to lay out any specific ground rules that I have in the boat. And I like to get an idea as to what the skill level is of the amateur that got paired up with me. So, you know, like the things I mentioned in the boat. One, you know, I specifically, like I mentioned before, I asked them to take care of the boat. I asked them about their net skills, if you're allowed to use nets in the tournament. I want to make sure that they feel comfortable netting my fish. If they don't, I'm comfortable netting my own fish. But if they truly, you know, express that they're really good net people, I'd rather have them net my fish. But I've had a lot of instances in the past where people have been like, no, I'm good, I'm a good netter, and then it turns out they're not a real good netter and they're really tentative when netting, and I've lost fish that have cost me a lot of money because of it. So I want to know the truth. Let me know. I don't expect anything out of the amateur in the back of the boat. I don't expect them to be great anglers. I don't expect them to be great net people. I assume that they are there to learn, and that's why I think they're there. That's why they should be there. So be honest with your boater. If you're not comfortable using a net, if you're not a great angler, and I'm fishing around docks all day, I want to know that there's a good chance that you may be hanging up on the dock or hitting the dock with your cast, because I can plan my day around that, and I'm not going to get nearly as frustrated with it if I'm aware of it early on. So the point being, just be honest with the boater as to what your skill level is. I also think it's really important to, one of the things I always state in the boat is that I don't want you to think that I'm not, that I'm angry with you if I'm not talking right off the bat. In my case, I feel like the conversation flow in the boat is almost always dictated based on how the day is going. And this is for both people. If the pro is catching 20 pounds and the amateur, the co-angler has caught, not caught anything and they've lost 20 pounds, the co-angler's not going to really probably want to engage in conversation. Just like if that was turned around, the pro probably is not in a great mood to have the conversation. So just let the day dictate the conversation. If for me, the first couple hours of the day are usually very focused, and I've got, my plan. And not that I'm not willing to talk. I very much engage in conversation. I think there's something to be said for that reduces stress level, but I also don't want somebody who is forcing conversation. There's a big difference there. If they're forcing conversation, that's taking me out of my rhythm when we're not really engaging in true conversation that's going on about the day. So just be aware of that. Some people are super talkative. Some people don't want to say a word. I personally feel like for me, it's all about the day. I've had days where we're telling jokes, and I've had days where we don't say much because it's a grinder of a tournament. And just, don't think that the pro or the co-angler are not good people because they're not engaging in conversation. They're there potentially at the professional level for sure. You're there to do a job. So a lot of times focus can be mistaken as somebody's not looking to, or just not, a very communicative person. So, those I kind of view as non-fishing related, right? Those are kind of just general boater etiquette. Personally, I always bring water and I've got snacks in the boat, and I make that known to the co-angler that they can, grab waters or drink or eat any of the food that I have in the boat. I think it's a nice gesture as well if the co-angler brings something for the pro, or just to offer it. It just kind of breaks the ice, and it's a good way to start the day. So moving into the fishing aspect, there's a lot of unwritten rules, right? A lot of pros will say don't cast in front of the front half of the boat. So draw an imaginary line down the middle of the boat. The co-angler should cast behind that. The pro should stay in front. Again, I think that's something you want to discuss right off the bat. A lot of times that can be dictated by the fishing style that the pro's doing. If the pro's going down the bank, fishing laydowns or fishing docks, I very much agree that the co-angler should let the pro thoroughly fish the water that they want to fish. Just because they turn the boat, in a certain direction doesn't mean that the co-angler should fire up to the next dock before the pro has fished it. Let the pro have the ability to fish what they want to fish. If you're not sure about making a cast, always ask. And that's going to do two things for you. One, most people, including myself, if you ask me, I'm going to say just make the cast. Even though I know I probably should say no, I still always say, yeah, go ahead and make the cast. You can fish it. I'm done with it. So I think if you ask, you're going to get more opportunity further on in the day. And, just make sure you let the pro fish what they want to fish. Don't, if they're fishing a laydown, don't throw your bait right in on top of them. I mean, I've had that happen over the years. And let me make sure that I've fished the water that I want to fish. I think as a general rule of thumb, the best co-anglers that I've always been paired with usually seem to do something completely different than what I'm doing. If I'm throwing a spinner bait, the co-angler's best bet is probably not to throw a spinner bait. You should probably do something completely different, whether that's a bottom bait or a top water, something different that will generate strikes from fish that did not want to bite my bait. If you've got a bait or a fish that's in a lethargic mood, you'd probably be better off throwing some sort of finesse bait behind me while I'm throwing a spinner bait. I also think you know, I don't personally care what my coangler uses, but I do think there are times you'll have a pro not happy with a coangler that's doing the same thing they're doing. And I'm not sure if that's because they one don't want the coangler to catch fish doing the same thing they're doing because it's going to make them feel bad if they missed a fish, or two, they actually want the coangler to do something different to potentially turn them onto a new technique that's working. But I have seen when pros have gotten upset that, you know, a coangler's throwing the same bait that they're throwing. Personally, I think you're there. If you want to throw the same bait, that's fine. I don't know that it's your best bet. Like I said, from my experience, it seems like the best coanglers always do something completely different than what I'm doing. And they pay attention to where I'm fishing. So, you know, if I'm going down the bank and I'm fishing laydowns and they see I missed the spot in that tree, they make a cast to where I missed the spot in the tree. If I'm, you know, fishing offshore and they see something in a different direction on the boat, you know, they're always aware of where I'm fishing so that they can make casts to spots that I haven't covered. I think that's a huge thing for a coangler from a success standpoint. I can't tell you how many times I've had guys catch fish behind me because they were aware of, you know, the cast that I had made. So just pay attention to what your pro's doing. And having said that, that's one reason, you know, you don't necessarily want to rush the pro. If you don't rush the pro, you can watch what they're doing, then make the cast to where they didn't cast and catch those fish without having to rush the pro. I mean, it works out great for everybody, I think, in that instance. One other thing that I think is a really nice gesture on a coangler standpoint, but I think it could really go bad, is when a coangler lifts the live well lid for a pro so that the pro can put their fish in the live well. Personally, I don't want my coangler doing anything with my fish at all. So I realize it's a nice gesture to lift the live well lid, but if I'm doing something and you lift the lid and a fish jumps out, which happens on occasion, it's just a good situation to try to avoid, right? So, you know, doing things like that are great, but just be aware that if it's something that can potentially affect the pro, it's better just to let the pro do their thing. You keep casting, let me put the fish in the live well. I guess that's really kind of everything in a nutshell. I would just stress that, you know, the co-anglers should be there to learn. It's not about making money. If you want to be there to generate an income, you probably should be on the front of the boat because there's more money to be made. And it's really just a matter of be there to learn, be respectful of the other individual on the boat and the boat itself, and chances are you're going to have a great day on the water. I can tell you personally that a lot of my best friends that I have made over the years through the fishing industry are people that I met because I got paired with them in the boat. Remember, all of us have the same love. We all have the same hobby, the same passion for fishing. So there's really not much reason why you shouldn't be able to get along in the boat. As long as you're respectful of each other, the chances are you're going to get along great, and you can meet a lot of really good lifelong friends because of it. I highly encourage getting out there, and if you've got the ability to fish as a co-angler and you don't have your own boat, give it a try, guys. I think you'll really enjoy it. You can learn an absolute ton and really increase that the speed at which you learn how to fish and increase the number of fish that you catch. Thanks for watching, guys. Tune in every day. We got new tips coming out. I hope this was helpful. Leave a comment if there's something you think I missed or something that you think co-anglers or pros should be aware of. And share it on your social media sources if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.